a little bit of research on you to like see if I can find anything a little personal, which you don't have nothing personal. But I did get to see your commercial, your video.
Yes.
And I took some things away from it that I wanted to ask you.
Yeah.
And some of the things that you said that you wanted to see in change for the Commonwealth. You want to usher in a new Commonwealth. That's what you said. And you said that you wanted to usher in a new Commonwealth, and bring us into a new direction, new opportunity, and a new future.
Yes, ma'am.
I want to talk about what is the new direction that you want to usher us into. Like, what's going to be different if you become the next person that sits on the board?
Absolutely. And so, to put it plainly, we have gotten away from the political process that is forged through empathy, that is forged through deep understanding of struggle, and that is forged through civil discourse, right? We see in the political spectrums and conversations the animosity of one side versus the other, right? If you're a Republican, like, oh gosh, if you're a Democrat, it's like, oh gosh, there's seems to be this feud of ideologies, right? But luckily, from what I hear in our General Assembly, there's a little more cordiality than in others, and especially on the national level. But the new direction that I encourage my colleagues to embrace, and I encourage everyone to understand, is simply doing by our communities as though we would do for our families, right? Being willing to sacrifice whatever financial gain that may come from going in a direction that's harmful to that, and embrace some of the more difficult and lonely conversations sometimes, because you're pretty much on an island, in order to create avenues for those who are constantly overlooked, right? And I'm not just talking about black and brown folks. I'm talking about folks with mental illness, right? I'm talking about folks with disabilities, veterans. I'm talking about those small pockets of large groups of people that are not catered to when it comes to developing policy, when it comes to deciding how to cut the budget, when it comes to servicing our constituents the way that we should.
Okay. And the new opportunities that we're going to have?
Oh, there's a couple of new opportunities. So my platform has always been centered around 5 core issues that are really dear and dear to not only myself, but also a lot of our constituents. And so when we talk about what the gun violence issue has been over the years that we've been seeing it grow in this epidemic, the question of a sensible gun legislation is part of the solution. But I think the new idea and the new opportunities that we can do is have the conversation of what is going on in our communities now, and has been for a very long time, especially you look at it on a social economical spectrum, that are giving folks any reason to seek this as a form of domestic violence, right? Are we addressing the economic struggles of our communities that force individuals to resort to gang activity, let's just say, or violence to find a way to come up, right? Are we addressing the lack of social services when it comes to our schoolings and wraparound services so that our children have the capacity to learn and not worry about when they're going to get their next meal, right? And so that also leads to the other piece when it comes to properly funding education, and so that not only our teachers and students and faculty have enough resources to do their job and not just be a social worker on top of being a teacher, on top of being a babysitter, on top of being a divorce attorney, on top of trying to be a mom or dad in their own personal world, right? But we need to make sure that we have enough funding for them to do what they need to do, right, at all levels. In addition to that, when it comes to affordable health care, we have a strong senior citizen population in our district. And really, if you look at where we are as a nation, the baby boomer generation, they're getting up there, right? And that means a lot more folks who are going to need certain services. And they don't need to be choosing between bankruptcy and having a more comfortable life.
Wow, yeah.
But that's really what's on the table right now, right? And then when it comes to our environment, we're making decisions that are unhealthy for generations to come, right? For capital gains, no less. And, there's just all these things that have constantly happened the way that individuals want them to happen. and sacrificing the many. And one of the most important issues on today's election cycle, let's just say, is abortion, right? Giving or providing the avenue for women to have the opportunity to make their own decisions when it comes to their bodies, right? And also liberating physicians to perform, in many cases, life-changing and life-saving healthcare. And, you know, it's a hot topic because over the past year, you know, we've seen a lot of things happen. And what's special about Virginia is we're the last safe haven in the South that provide access to abortion for folks, right? So we have people come from out of state and trying to seek that form of health care. And so those are just some of the things that I'm championing and bringing some new ideas, if you will. And I have one last caveat. I work as a financial advisor on a 9-to-5